This is a guide on leveling the warrior in what I think is the fastest and most efficient way. Before I start the guide, I just want to talk about the unique mechanic that warrior has from all the other classes. It uses the adrenaline bar above the weapon skills to build up to a burst skill. It builds up to 30, and it has increments at 10, 20, and then 30, which increase the damage on the burst skill. But onto the guide. So why would you pick a warrior? Warrior is one of the 3 soldier classes, along with Guardian and Revenant, that use heavy armor, which has high defense. It also has the highest base health of all the classes, which means it's very naturally tanky, and therefore it's easy to pick up and play, and very forgiving as you start the game and get used to the class. Now onto the gear. Because warrior is very naturally tanky, we want to build as much damage as possible through focusing on power, precision, ferocity, and then any other stats. You want to build them in that order because that will increase your damage and then decrease the time spent killing monsters and getting experience. Onto the weapons. Warrior has access to the most weapons of all the classes, and it's all personal preference on what you use, but I recommend using Greatsword and then Sword Warhorn. But why this? That setup is very mobility based, which is 50% of what you're going to be doing, which is running between things and then sometimes killing. You want to use the number 2 skill on the Greatsword when you're fighting something because it will deal the most damage compared to your auto attack or other skills. The 3 and 5 skill on the Greatsword are mobility skills, which will help you get around. And then the 2 skill on the Warhorn is a leap mobility skill that can be used while crossing gaps if you can't jump over them because you can't use the Greatsword skills. The number 4 skill on the Warhorn grants swiftness, which will also help while running around. Onto the utility skills. I'll start with the heal skill. There are 3 heal skills that will be available: Healing Signet, Defiant Stance, and then Healing Surge. Healing Signet gives passive regen and a tiny active heal, while Defiant Stance gives a larger heal and increases the healing based on the damage that you take during the channel time. Healing Surge instead will give you a very large heal and also fill your adrenaline bar, like I said before. I use Healing Signet because it's very useful, but a lot of conditions will counter it, but luckily in the open world, you'll very rarely come across very condition-heavy bosses. Utility skills. There is no set skills that make leveling faster or easier. It's all on whatever you want to use, but I'll throw out some advice. Avoid the heal skill, the physical skills, or the banners. Physical skills are very unbalanced and weak, and I don't really like using them. And banners are more aimed at group play and party play, which you shouldn't be doing too much of, but you might be, so then you should use them. Stances are okay, but of the ones that are available, none of them really help because they're all aimed at making you more defensive rather than offensive, as we're trying to get with the leveling. My preferences for the skills are for Great Justice, which grants Might and Fury, which will increase your damage output. They'll give you condition damage, power, and precision, which will all help. Also, Signet of Fury, which will increase your precision passively, and which synergizes with traits really well. And then it will also grant you adrenaline on the active. And then the last one I use is Shake It Off. It can clear one condition, and will also break the stun if you're stunned or CC'd or something. Now onto the elite skill. You should only use one elite skill, and this is Signet of Rage. The other ones, the banner and the rage skill and the physical skill, aren't good at all until you've got onto Berserker, and then the new skill set that's added is very good. But back to leveling. Signet of Rage will give you 5 stacks of Might, Fury, and Swiftness, all on the active, and it passively gives you adrenaline. This will help a lot with your damage when you activate it, and I'd activate it when you're going into fights against veterans, elites, or even champions if you're up to that. This is the only viable option while leveling, until you do some group combat, which may require the banner, because it can res people, or PvP when Juggernaut, the physical skill, is quite good. Do not take anything else unless you want to play around with stuff. On to the traits. The first trait line we want to fill out is Strength. The first minor skill is Reckless Dodge, If we dodge through enemies, we deal damage. The next major is Restorative Strength. Grants might on heal. If you're using Healing Signet, this isn't that useful, but otherwise it is. Building Momentum is the next minor one. Once we use our burst skill, our F1, it increases our endurance faster, which is used for dodges. The next skill is Forceful Greatsword, which deals more damage and gives might on crits with the Greatsword, which is why we use it. The next one is Stick and Move. That's the minor. We deal more damage when our endurance is not full. So as you fight someone, you're going to want to be dodging through them. This will help us learn how to dodge and just get used to dodging the attacks of enemies. And the final skill is Berserker's Power. It deals more damage on our F1 skills, which will help us when we're in a fight. The next skill we want to fill out is Discipline. So the minor skill is Versatile Rage, which gives us adrenaline when swapping weapons. So we'll swap weapons, we'll swap from the sword Warhorn to the Greatsword for our fights, so that we increase our adrenaline. The next one is Warrior's Sprint. This helps us run faster if we've got a melee weapon on. If you're dying too much, you can switch to Vengeful Return. So when you use the down skills number 3, Vengeance, and you kill someone, you'll come back to life. It's very useful if you're dying a lot, but you know you can kill them. The next one is Fast Hands for faster weapon swapping. So if you've got a condition on, which isn't the next one, Brawler's Recovery, you can switch weapon sets and switch back in 10 seconds so that you can clear conditions but still have the damage outputs high. Then Versatile Power is the next minor. It gives might on weapon swap, again synergizing with this weapon switching. And then Heightened Focused is another one we really want. It gives quickness on low health foes, specifically foes below 50% health. I think it's got a 5-second cooldown, but otherwise it's really good. Lastly, we want to get Arms. This is where the precision will synergize with our traits, because it gives bleeds on crits, which if we've got a few stacks of might, will deal more damage than normal, and thus will kill them faster. The next one we want in Major is Berserker's Fury. We build adrenaline in combat, and when we hit a low health foe, we gain Fury, which increases our crit chance by 20%. Then Rending Strikes, Vulnerability on crits. Vulnerability is a debuff for them that gives them 1% extra damage against them, so it's very useful if we can get a few stacks on them. Deep Strikes is the next one. Fury gives condition damage, so using something like For Great Justice and then getting a few bleeds will give us a lot more damage on those bleeds, which will really help. Last one is Bloodlust. Last minor is Bloodlust. The bleeds are stronger, so again, lots more damage on the bleeds. And the final one is Burst Precision, where the F1 or burst skills have a higher crit chance. It's very useful. If you're dying too much or you feel like you want some more defensive abilities, switch to the defense line, using Thick Skin as the minor, Dogged March as the major, Adrenal Health as the minor, Defy Pain or Armored Attack. Defy Pain is more survivability, Armored Attack is more damage as your next major, Spiked Armor as your minor, and Cleansing Eye as your major. That will all help you survive. Now, tips and tricks to the warrior class. As I said before, Greatsword 2 can kill nearly all monsters unless they're veteran or higher. If you're dying too quickly, as I said, switch arms for defense. And you can also use the Dolyak Signet, which will passively increase your toughness, and then it will also, I think, grant stability, which makes you immune to CC. By using the Warhorn 4 and Signet of Rage, if you use them as they come off their cooldowns, you can stack swiftness, so you're moving around the map much faster. Alright, that's the guide. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.